Good morning, friends. I would like to thank Turnip for organizing this wonderful event entitled Innovation Commercialization for Atmanirbhar Bharat. So, there are two important concepts embedded in the title: Innovation, Commercialization, and Atmanirbhar Bharat. I think these are the very two important concepts or philosophies we are trying to integrate over here. If you wanted to achieve Atmanirbhar Bharat, how innovation commercialization helps? And what do we mean by Atmanirbhar Bharat? I think we need to understand the two important concepts. Atmanirbhar Bharat means the self-reliant India. So what do we mean by self-reliant India or the Atmanirbhar Bharat? If all our population are above the poverty line, if there is no hunger, if we are able to meet all the goods and services required by our society through our in-house production, then we call it as an Atmanirbhar Bharat. We achieved Atmanirbhar Bharat. Not only that, we need to achieve all the sustainable development goals mutually agreed upon by all the UN member countries. So there are about 17 goals which are indicators for measuring a human development. All these 17 goals requires adoption of innovation or commercialization of innovation or implementation of innovation. So that is why I said it is very, very important to understand how innovation commercialization, or in other words technology commercialization, is essential for achieving Atmanirbhar Bharat. So I would like to thank Mr. Rahul Chowdhury for conceiving this concept and asking National Research Development Corporation to share our thoughts, share our perspectives on this subject. As you all know, National Research Development Corporation is an enterprise, a central public sector undertaking in the Department of Scientific and Industrial Research under Ministry of Science and Technology, Government of India. It was established in the year 1953 with a major mandate to promote innovations in this country, to protect intellectual property rights in this country, and whatever research is being done in this country, NRDC takes this research to the end users who are entrepreneurs, startups, small companies, MSMEs, big companies in India and outside. So NRDC has been given a wonderful role to promote innovation in this country. In fact, this is the very premier organization, pioneering organization for commercialization of innovations in this country. So it is also very, very important for all the participants to understand what is IP and what is the relation between IP and innovation, and what is the innovation management cycle, where it starts and where it ends. So the entire process of management from its inception to end use, that is what we call as a innovation management cycle. So whatever research we do, research is the foundation, research is the building block on which innovations are built. Without proper research, there is no IP, there is no innovation. So it is very, very important for all the governments, both at the central as well as the state, to invest substantial resources in research. Okay, that is the basis on which innovations comes out to the society. So Government of India spends substantial amount, about 0.8 to 0.9% of our GDP on research to develop solutions, technologies which can solve the societal problems. Okay, so this research is being done across all the public funded research organizations in the Ministry of Science and Technology, in various other line ministries as well. So each ministry has to address the societal needs. So majority of these societal needs requires innovations. So that is why innovation, intellectual property right, technology commercialization has been the main focus of the Ministry of Science and Technology, Government of India. So the process follows or flows like this. Once you carried out a research, found out a solution to a problem, so the next step is that since we are in the knowledge economy, we need to protect that knowledge, because knowledge is like any other asset. If you don't protect it, it can be misused, and the researchers, the inventors, they may not get the benefit out of their fruits of their research. That is why government has also brought out different IP acts like Patent Act, Trademark Act, Copyright Act, Design Act, Integrated Circuit Act. So depending upon the type of outcome of this research, you can protect that research outcomes in the form of a patents or copyrights or trademarks or designs or integrated circuits. So to enable the institution in which you are working, generally these institutions should have a IP cells or innovation cells or a technology transfer offices. So that is very, very important. Of course, in our country, we are not having so many technology transfer offices or IP cells in our institutions. Now the trend is changing. Majority of these institutions are now opening their IP cells or technology transfer offices, who really help the researchers to evaluate the research outcomes, whether they are patentable or not. So that is very, very important. So this assessment needs to be done. So the IP cell or the technology transfer offices in respective universities or research organizations should assess whether this research outcome is patentable or not, whether it has got any commercial value in it or not. So once you decide it, you need to protect it in the one of the IP offices. As I mentioned to you, there are about 8 types of intellectual property rights which are protected by the act of law. So if it is a patent, it will be protected under Patent Act. If it is a copyright, it will be protected under Copyright Act. So like that, there are different offices, there are different acts under which all these intellectual property rights will be protected. It is also very important to assess, you see, all the research outcomes may not be required to protect their IP because it's quite expensive. So the team which has got in the IP office, they are equipped with that kind of a tools, techniques to assess whether the research outcomes are patentable or not. So once you have decided to go for a patent, you have applied it, then once you file an application there in the respective offices, so what happens is again the patent offices or the intellectual property right offices, they evaluate whether there is a specific criteria to grant that intellectual property rights. We are talking about patents mostly because innovations, the research outcomes or the products which are processes which are coming out of research are protected, or innovations are protected under the Patent Act. So we are talking about mostly patents. So once you have filed a patent or after you got a patent, you need to market it to various entrepreneurs, startup companies, big companies, small companies, so that they will use your knowledge, produce that product or service out of this IP, and you bring that product to market so that the society gets benefit out of it. So whatever products we are using in our day-to-day life today, they are all out of innovation. You know, whatever computers, whatever aeroplanes, whatever automobiles, whatever cell phones, what we are using, the pharmaceuticals, the drugs, which are all improving our standard of living, have come from the innovation, the research, the intellectual property rights. So in this process, once you identify a right party who can commercialize this, we sign an agreement with them. That is what we call as a technology transfer or technology licensing agreement. So once that is done, the party or the entrepreneur, the startup who has taken this technology from us, he will establish a commercial plant, produce the product or service, and market it. So while taking this technology, he will also pay some kind of a royalty and also the licensing fee to the institute which developed this technology. So that is how we monetize the intellectual property right which is emanated out of research. So this is the complete cycle. It starts from an idea to market, okay, lab to land. That is what we call. These are all the cycle. This is the life cycle of an innovation, life cycle of a research outcome. It starts from idea, or it starts from a mind, So the entire process, mind to market, or idea to market, or lab to land, these are all the various terminologies used in the process of taking the invention to the marketplace. So innovation is also nothing but the process of taking invention to the marketplace. So in that process, all these steps are involved. So this is broadly the innovation management cycle. So we are going to touch upon some of these aspects in my subsequent presentation. So if you wanted to understand the innovation, and if you wanted to promote innovation in any state or across the nation, Niti Aayog has recently brought out a report on innovation ranking of different states in our country. So they have about some 6 parameters. They said these are all the parameters or dimensions on which a state's innovation ranking has been evolved. So what are those parameters? If you wanted to say you are an innovative state or you are an innovative country, as far as Niti Aayog's criteria is concerned, these are the 6 parameters. What they said, the human capital. If you want to promote innovation in any state or in any country, one of the fundamental things is required is a human capital. Then you need investment in the research and investment in the taking the research to marketplace. Then another parameter is the knowledge workers. This is also very, very important. You might have developed a good technology, but if you don't have a skilled knowledge workers, the technology cannot go into the market. It cannot be implemented successfully. Business environment. This is also very, very important. And safety and legal environment. Safety and legal environment is very, very important. The knowledge output is very, very important. The institutions which are there in that state, in that country, what kind of output they are, what kind of knowledge output they are bringing to the society or to that state. That is very, very important. And once you generated knowledge, what are the institutional mechanisms you have for knowledge diffusion? Okay, these are all the 6 parameters on which Niti Aayog has evaluated the innovativeness of different states, and they have also ranked the states. So in each parameter I have plotted here which state has got highest scoring on each of these parameters. For example, human capital, Chandigarh appears to be having number 1 ranking as far as human capital dimension is concerned. Of course, all these things put together, you will get a individual state ranking. The ranks what they got, what a normalized weighted average, based on that they evolved the state rankings. But here in each of these parameters we have plotted here which state is strong in which dimension. Karnataka is very strong in investments in innovation, innovation development or innovation creation, innovation diffusion. So Karnataka is very strong in that. Himachal Pradesh is very strong in knowledge workers. So that is why I think a lot of pharma companies goes there, because of availability of knowledge workers. Of course, the tax benefits what Himachal Pradesh government is offering to all these companies there. Business environment is concerned, Goa appears to be number 1 among all the states. Safety and legal environment is concerned, Sikkim appears to be number 1. The knowledge output is concerned, Delhi is number 1 because there are so many premier institutions in Delhi. The knowledge output is nothing but the kind of peer-reviewed papers you publish in international journals, the number of patents you file, the number of technologies you transfer. So there are a number of indicators to measure the knowledge output. Okay, the kind of human resources you produce. So all these things are nothing but knowledge output. Delhi is number 1 in producing knowledge output. And again, Karnataka, again knowledge diffusion. Karnataka again it is a number 1 in knowledge diffusion as well. So these are the major 6 dimensions on which the innovativeness or the innovativeness of a state has been ranked by Niti Aayog. So if any state wanted to promote innovation, they need to strengthen in all these elements. So it is also very, very important to understand the innovation readiness or the technology readiness levels. See, if you want to transfer your technology or if you want to commercialize your innovation, the technology should be matured enough so that the investors, the entrepreneurs, the startups can buy this technology. So how do we assess the readiness? What are all the stages involved in it? See, the technology readiness level is measured on a scale of 0 to 9. So what is 0? Simply if it is an idea, unproven concept, no testing has been performed, you got a brilliant idea. So that idea stage itself we call it as a 0 level. Then if you did some research, basic research and basic principles we observed and reported in the form of a paper, then we call it as a technology readiness level 1 or TRL 1. Then the technology concept or applications are formulated based on the observations. Then you carried out a applied research and have a proof of concept in the laboratory scale. So your idea you deduced to a proof of concept in a small scale in your laboratory. Up to that stage we call it is an idea technology, or the technology only at idea stage. The next stage is very critical, that is the prototype development and its validation. So once you have a laboratory scale proof of concept, we call it as a TRL 3. Most of the technologies which are coming out of academic environment are at this stage, TRL level 3. If you want to really commercialize this technology, the TRL should be at least 8 or 9. Then only it is easy to transfer or easy to commercialize this innovation. So there are several other steps in between. So we need to mature the technology by carrying out the following operations. What is the next stage? Small scale prototype built in a laboratory environment. Okay, it is very crude prototype. Then we call it as a TRL 4. Then bench scale, large scale prototype you have developed, tested in intended environment. You see, ultimately all these prototypes have to be tested in the real life conditions and it should work there. Then only we call it the idea is proven, the technology is proven. So the next stage is that building this prototype and test it at a intended environment. Then we call it as a technology readiness level 5. So the next level is the testing of a prototype close to the expected environment. Okay, this is the critical threshold in innovation. If you want to really transfer the technology, it should be at least minimum TRL 6. Okay, so the next step is integrated pilot system and demonstration, a field demonstration. So this 4 to 7 is very critical in any innovation development or taking this innovation to the marketplace. So these two stages, prototype development and validation, covers TRL 4 to 7. So actually most of our technologies which are coming out of academic environment are only at 3, and if you wanted to commercialize them, they need to be matured up to TRL 7 by doing all these things. So since we all attempted to transfer these technologies at TRL 3 directly, so most of the technologies fall in the valley of death. So what is valley of death? The technology development stage from 3 to 7 is called very critical, that is a valley of death. If you don't do all these maturation stages, if you don't do all these development stages, particularly the prototype development and validation, that is the stage what we call technology valley of death. If you don't get required resources, required expertise, required support, the technology fall into that valley of death and it will die there itself. So to overcome this valley of death, now many innovation ecosystem players or institutional mechanisms have been put in place, like the incubation centers. Incubation centers are the wonderful concepts, wonderful institutional mechanisms to upgrade, to mature your technologies. What incubation centers provide is only this. They provide a common space, all the mentoring, all the common facilities, the equipment, so that you will be able to convert your idea into a prototype and validation. Once you have completed that, you are close to success because your product development is completed in all respects. You tested this product in the real lifetime conditions. You got the feedback. You got the traction for some of your products. So this is the crucial stage in taking any innovation to the marketplace. So the valley of death is the the concept all the inventors and innovators should understand and endorse support from all the innovation ecosystem players to overcome this valley of death. After you have developed the product at a prototype, tested, validated, then you can go for a demonstration, a semi-commercial scale. Then the final is ready for commercial deployment and market entry. So these are all the 9 technology readiness levels. All the inventors, researchers should also try to understand, and the policy makers to understand where the problems are. Okay, and these are some of the other challenges if you wanted to take the innovation from a R&D labs. As we discussed, most of the technologies comes from TRL, low TRLs. Particularly the technologies which are coming from the academic institutions, they are at a low TRLs, TRL 3 or less. But one thing we noticed is that technologies which are coming from national research laboratories, they are at fairly higher level. Most of them are TRL 5 or 6. So that is, we also found that it is easy to commercialize innovations coming out of national research laboratories where a lot of applied research is being done, and they are scaling up of these technologies, scaling up of these processes, developing the prototype, testing in the market in real life conditions, then they transfer these technologies. So fairly those technologies are successfully commercialized. See, all these things to overcome the valley of death, what is required is the funding for scaling up our pilot plants, or developing prototypes and their validation in the market, testing in the market. Okay, and we also need to do market research to understand who are the competitors, what is the demand, what is the supply, what are the regulatory compliances, the market entry barriers. All these things are also, again, for many of these innovative technologies we don't have it. So the researchers, the inventors, they don't have this kind of an experience or expertise. That is also one reason why many technologies don't see the light of the day. Lack of techno-economic feasibility reports, technology access to risk capital, because all this development requires a risk capital. Because why we require risk capital is that this is a innovation is a very risky business. Okay, you cannot borrow money to prove the technologies if they are
connection successfully. It shows it's already should I stop and start again? It's going.
डिस्टर्ब मत करना है, दरवाजा बंद करो, आप फोन बंद करो. Yeah, as we have seen, there are so many challenges if you wanted to achieve successful commercialization of innovations. So these are the major challenges. No national guidelines for IP or technology evaluation. If you have an innovation, how do you value it? Is also a big challenge. There is no organized way of or national standards for evaluation of technology. And we also need to understand the way you understand any product. The 4 P's of any product marketing are also applicable and relevant to technology transfer or the innovation commercialization, like the understanding the product, the price, the promotion, the place where we license it or where we transfer. So these are some of the major challenges we need to address at institution level, at national level, at organizational level or state level. If we are able to create all these conducive conditions to address these challenges, definitely the innovation of commercialization takes place in a much rapid scale. You see, if you look at commercialization of innovation, see, one of the measure of an innovativeness is, or the innovation is measured in terms of the number of IPs we file. Okay, intellectual properties or the patents we file. We are also very low in filing patents, and even whatever patents we have filed, if you look at the commercialization, the rate of commercialization is also very low. Hardly about 5 to 6% of our IPs or patents are being commercialized. Compared to international standards, of the global standards, we are very much behind. So we need to have such kind of a policies to promote commercialization of innovations in our country based on the best practices being in use in other developed economies. So as we have seen, how do we mature these IPs? You see, patent is not a technology. The patent is merely a proof of concept. You file a patent once the proof of concept is established. But if you want to convert that patent into a technology, one has to add value to it to mature the patent. That's what we have seen in the past in my earlier slide. How do we add value to the patented knowledge so that it becomes a technology? So patents are basically they're at TRL 3 or 4 low value in technology readiness level. If you wanted to really convert this patent into a technology, it should be the technology readiness level should be more than 6. Okay, so how do we achieve that? By adding value like prototype development, testing, and scale up, market research, getting regulatory approvals. So all these things are needed to mature this know-how or mature this technology or mature this patent so that it becomes a technology which can be adopted or implemented by the entrepreneurs. So the kind of value added services required or NRDC is providing to all these startups, inventors, innovators, startups, MSMEs are we evaluate all the technologies what are there with us, or anyone would like to know the status of technology, where the technology lies in its technology life cycle, we can also assess and tell the inventors or the innovators who are taking these technologies to marketplace. We also provide financial assistance for scale up. That is one of the major drawback or constraint in our system. As I told you, most of our ideas are at only proof of concept. They are not really scaled up. So NRDC also supports inventors and entrepreneurs to scale up these technologies. So we provide financial assistance in the form of grants. We also help protecting the intellectual property rights. NRDC files patents free of cost to the researchers, inventors, startup companies. Okay, this is a great service NRDC is providing. If you have your idea, your technology is protected through intellectual property rights, the valuation of your company, the valuation of your business goes up because it gives protection to the producer who is using that knowledge to produce the product and service. He gets exclusive right. So intellectual property protection is very, very important. So we also provide funding, and we file patents free of cost. We provide support for prototyping, field testing, clinical trials in case of drugs and pharmaceutical molecules. We carry out market research, market survey, basic engineering packages, techno-economic feasibility reports. We also prepare DPRs on a given technology. We also help the entrepreneurs to get regulatory dossiers prepared, and we also help them in getting regulatory approvals. We help them in publicity, marketing of their products. We also invest in these startup companies in terms of equity. We give invest up to 30 lakhs in all these startup companies. And incubation services, all these services are also required in various incubation centers because startup companies require all this support. We also provide these services. Apart from that, the most important thing is the mentoring and hand-holding, because in any given domain, any given subject, because we work with most of the premier institutions in the country, we know where a good mentors are available to solve the given problem. So these are all the services we provide. These are all the strengths of NRDC. In fact, NRDC is like a one-stop shop for all the entrepreneurs, all the startup companies, all the researchers. But unfortunately, many people are not aware the kind of services NRDC is offering. So I urge all the participants to popularize and get benefit out of the services being offered by NRDC. NRDC is such a wonderful organization. If you come to NRDC, all your pain points are related to entrepreneurship, innovation would be adequately addressed and solved. Okay, that is such kind of a wonderful organization created by Government of India, and all the services are available to all the prospective entrepreneurs. So if you also look at understanding the theory, if you take an idea to market, what kind of money flow is required, which is plotted in this graph. Basically, from time 0 to time, say for example 3 years or 4 years, how the money flow into a a technology, developing a technology, bringing the technology to marketplace, So this is the curve. So here the deep valley, under the x-axis, that is what we call as the valley of death. So the valley of death again further can be classified into two what we call two levels. One is the technology valley of death, the other one is the commercialization valley of death. So the technology valley of death, in the total valley of death area, if you measure the technology valley of death, the area is less, but whereas the commercialization valley of death is the area occupied under the curve is high, because a lot of money is required to bring a technology to marketplace. There is a thumb rule. If you want to develop an idea to market, in the development, if you need research, if you need $1, if you want to bring that idea to a fully developed stage, it requires $10. Okay, and from development to commercialization, it requires $100. So that is what the curve is also more or less indicates that kind of investments here. If you are able to endorse support from all the stakeholders to raise required resources, if you are able to get required mentoring, you will be able to overcome this valley of death. Rather, you overcome in the sense, still you have to pass through this, but if you are able to get all the kind of a vaccine, to protect yourself, to get the immunity, you will be able to overcome this valley of death and successfully come to the marketplace. In case of software and IT services, the valley of death, the depth is less. That means the investments required is less compared to a manufacturing technologies. The depth of the valley of death is higher in case of manufacturing products or manufacturing industry. It is obvious because it requires more capital investment. That is why the depth of this valley is very, very important. Every technology has to pass through. There is no other alternative. So people who are able to raise resources, raise required manpower, raise required networks, establish required networks, they will be able to cross the valley of death successfully. Then you will become a successful venture. So that is what we have plotted here: research, development, prototype, proof of concept, pilot demonstration, then commercial production. So that is the commercial production where ends, that is the a break even. That is what revenues are raising from that point. So until where the curve crosses the x-axis, that is what we call a payback period. Payback period means whatever investment you are making and you are able to get revenue equivalent to that. There is no profit, no loss kind of a situation. That is what we call a payback period. Until that, the entire period is called a valley of death period. So one has to plan it properly, put all the resources together so that you will be able to traverse, or you will be able to travel, or you are able to take this idea to marketplace very successful. It is like any human form, the way we grow, this technology is also like that. So once you have a technology which is patented, as we talked about it, all innovations generally protected through patents. Once you got a patent, there are two ways through which you can commercialize this patent. One is, we call it as a licensing, the other one is assignment. Licensing means it is exclusive. You can also give license, either exclusive license or non-exclusive license. Exclusive license means you are giving your patented technology or knowledge to only one party. Okay? If you are giving a non-exclusive license means you are giving this technology to more than one party. So when you are selling your knowledge to only one party, obviously you will charge more money because you are giving an advantage, competitive advantage. You are restricting others not to use your knowledge, not to have access to your knowledge. So exclusive licenses are always costlier. But whereas non-exclusive licenses are cheaper. And also this exclusive or non-exclusive can also be linked to a certain period. Okay. So licenses are given for a period of 5 to 10 years. Every 5 to 10 years, depending upon the negotiated price and negotiation conditions. So after the licensing period is over, they need to renew it, the licensing agreement, with a new terms and conditions of licensing. So that is what generally we do. And the other way of transferring this technology or taking this technology to market is assignment. Assignment means you are transferring your absolute ownership. Rather, you are selling your rights on a permanent basis to the other party, like any other uh, selling your house, selling your car, no, wherein we transfer absolute ownership to that party who is buying our knowledge. So in that process, there they can sublicense it. But whereas in the licensing option, they cannot sublicense. They can only use it. They cannot sublicense. Whereas in assignment process, they can sublicense it. That is why it is also very expensive, because you are selling your absolute ownership to the party. So it is a perpetual rights. They get the lifelong rights on the technology or the know-how. So these are the two terminologies used in innovation commercialization. So people who are involved in licensing, they should understand all these concepts of exclusive license, non-exclusive license, assignment, and the your negotiating power also, or negotiating terms and conditions also, depending upon the type of licensing you are negotiating. So when you are licensing an innovation, you need to, generally it will be done through a licensing agreement. So these are some of the important clauses in the agreement one need to understand. So you need to define all your terminology in your agreement. This is very, very important. When some dispute arises, they refer only these definitions what you have defined in the agreement. Like product means what, process means what, company means what. So all these things have to be defined very clearly in your preamble clause, recital clause. All these important definitions, that is very, very important. The second and foremost important clause in the any licensing agreement is the roles and responsibilities. Who brings what onto the table? As a developer, as an institute which developed this technology, what is your role? Where it starts, where it ends. Similarly, what are your responsibilities? What are your obligations? What are your deliverables? What is the product process specifications, what you are committed to deliver. So all these things need to be captured thoroughly in the licensing agreement. Otherwise, when some dispute arises, always it creates a problem. Then exclusive or non-exclusive license or assignment. This is also we discussed. You should also define in the agreement what type of license you are getting it. Geography, where you are going to manufacture, where you are going to sell it. That also has to be defined. So if you are taking a license only to manufacture in India and sell in India, you can only do that. You cannot manufacture using this technology in other countries, or you cannot sell in other jurisdictions unless it is mentioned in your agreement. Tomorrow they may put an objection. So this is also very, very important to understand. Licensing fee, royalty rate, duration, all these things again you need to define. How much fee we supposed to pay, whether the entire fee is you are paying in one go, licensing fee, or a milestone linked payment, and the royalty again on the sales, what percentage of royalty, generally in India up to 5%, if it is a export up to 8%, so something like that. There are general guidelines are there. So within the guidelines you can always negotiate and fix your royalty rate, and the duration, what is the licensing duration, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, so that till the patent is valid. So all these things need to be defined in your agreement. IP issues, IP maintenance. See, you are giving a rights for manufacturing this product or a technology for which you hold a patent, but who maintains the patent? Where the institute which filed the patent is going to maintain it, or the person who is going to manufacture the product or service on this patent, who is going to maintain the cost? Different institutions have got different rules, regulations. If you are licensing an exclusive basis, probably you can argue for a maintaining the patent by the buyer of the technology. Then future development, suppose as a research institute you will be constantly upgrading the technology, upgrading the patent. So who owns that, and how do you transfer those developments? Whether you are going to give all these developments free of cost, or whether you are going to charge, the terms and conditions of that needs to be mutually decided well in advance. Infringements, suppose somebody files a case against you saying that the product, the service what you are producing and selling in the market, you have copied my technology, then who will give a guarantee, or who will protect you from such kind of a legal suits? Obviously the patent holder has to support you, has to give all the information to fight such kind of cases. So there should be a necessity to mention about the infringements. How do you address those infringement suits? That has to be covered in your agreement. Similarly, indemnity, product indemnity, liability, the product has caused some problem in the society. Who holds that indemnity also has to be decided. Jurisdiction of settlement of disputes. You are two places. You are in, for example, NRDC is in Delhi, and the technology buyer is somewhere in Jammu, Kashmir, or Kerala. So where do you settle these disputes? So there is a need for clear understanding of the jurisdiction of dispute settlement, whether it courts in Delhi or courts in the buyer's place. That needs to be decided. Force majeure, like the condition like this, the pandemic, COVID pandemic. So entire all the businesses have come to standstill. All our life has come to standstill. All offices have been closed. All the markets have been closed. Supply chains have been broken. So who owns the responsibility in case of force majeure conditions? So it has to be properly articulated in the agreements, all these clauses, and competencies of signatories, board resolutions. For example, the signatories to the agreement are really competent, whether the powers have been vested with that signatories or not, whether it is supported by the board resolution. So these are all some of the important issues or clauses one need to understand while commercializing innovations. So why IPs are important in business? Because IP gives an exclusive right to the manufacturer, So that is why it's very, very important. If you are using a patent protected technology, others cannot produce that product or service without the permission of the patent holder. Because you bought the patent rights, so you get that exclusive right and protection. Okay, so that is why it helps the business to grow. And then if the business is growing, means what it does, what it means, it brings economic growth and development, creates wealth, jobs, improves quality of life, purchasing power, and ultimately the GDP of a nation. So that is why IP and GDP of the nations are very much correlated. If the country has got a huge IP and IP enforcement, strong IP enforcement, they are bringing innovative products to the market. Obviously, it contributes to the GDP and it contributes to the Atmanirbhar Bharat or Atmanirbhar Bharat of the particular country. So, business performance is directly proportional to IP capability. This we have seen in many developed economies. If the country or the company, if they got a strong IP portfolio, their business performance is much better compared to others. IP promotes FDI, Make in India. You all know that if some entrepreneur comes with his own IP to our country, he doesn't have to take anybody's collaboration. No, so he will be given a red carpet welcome. All the approvals are minimized, and 100% FDI is also been given, and people who comes with FDI into our country. So this promotes Make in India. And also, if you see many of the successful MNCs, if you analyze their asset portfolio, 80% of the market capitalization of these companies are lying in intangible assets like IP. Only 15-20% of the company assets are in fixed assets like land, building, but 85% of the market capitalization is coming from the intangible assets like IP. So this is the power of IP. IP oils the economy and has multiplier effect. That's what we have seen in the brick and mortar economy. Men, material, and capital created wealth, but whereas in the knowledge economy, ideas, innovations, IPs are the backbone for sustainable economic growth. And IP innovations are also helping in combating COVID-19 challenges. Across the globe, there are more than 100 companies, research teams are working to come out with a vaccine for COVID-19. Whoever comes first, they will be the leaders and they will become rich by commercializing that IP across the globe. So IP and US economy, I would like to give one example here, how IP helping US economy. In one study recently in 2016, USPTO has conducted in about 130,000 startups and MSMEs. They found that around 45 million high-paid jobs have been created by these IP-intensive industries. that is equivalent to 30% of the US jobs. And these IP intensive industries have contributed to 6 trillion to US economy, that is around 38.2% of GDP in USA has come from these IP intensive industries. Without trademark and brand registration, even Amazon doesn't sell any product in their outlet marketplace. So that is the importance of intellectual property right. You all know trademark is also one of the intellectual property. So I suggest all the startup companies to go for a trademark, use IP protected or patent protected technology so that you can draw all these benefits. Startups or SMEs have earned 32% more revenue compared to their counterpart who are not having IPs. This is another major driving force for SMEs to adopt intellectual property rights, because if the study shows that the SME startups who have used IP based technologies, they were able to earn 32% more revenue compared to the counterparts who are not having IP in their businesses. IP is a truly intellectual currency helping to promote economic growth, company competitiveness and innovation in the world. So why IP protection is essential for startups? Because now we are talking about startups. Government of India has been giving a huge thrust and push to the startups, because startups are the engines for economic growth across the globe, and India has also realized and emerged as the third largest startup ecosystem in the world. The government has created a 10,000 crore startup fund. Startup India mission has been created to promote startups. This is the best time for entrepreneurship and startups in our country. So all the youngsters, students, I think they should think of startup as their career option rather than looking for a job. Such a wonderful ecosystem has been created. More than 300 incubation centers have been created across the country. So simply you have to go there with your idea, or take an idea or a technology from institution like NRDC and mature that idea and prove that, prototype it, develop it, test it. Once you market accept that, prepare your business plan, go out of the incubation center, graduate out of it and start your own business. So in that process, if you are having IP protection for your technology, for your business, it gives you a lot of benefits. What are those benefits? As I mentioned to you, you will get competitive advantage in the marketplace, because once IP is there, IP protection is there for your technology, product or process or service, it gives exclusive right for a certain period. In case of patents, if you are using a patented technology, you get 20 years exclusive right on that product or service. So nobody can copy that. Nobody can produce the same product or the same service without your permission. So that is a kind of a competitive. As a startup, you should have a business, you should start a venture with only IP protected technology, so that you will have that competitive or strategic advantage. It improves your valuation. When you scale up your business, you need to get money from venture capitalists, private equity players. If you have a patented technology, they value your business at much higher value, so that you can sell your shares at a premium. So that way you can raise more money to scale up your business. So that improves your valuation, is very, very important. Because why they give higher valuation for business? Because they also get protection for their investment. If they are investing in a startup company which has got a patented technology, so their growth is assured, their returns on their investment is assured, because the startup has got a unique competitive advantage, because that is their unique selling point. Market barriers are there for others to enter into that business, because it is a patented technology. Once you have patented, no one can copy, no one can start a business for the same product, the same service. So that is the major advantage. I urge and advise all the startup companies to protect their intellectual property right. NRDC also provides assistance for filing patents. NRDC patents free of cost to all startups in the country who have registered their startup under DIPP or DPIIT portal or the Startup India Mission portal. So that is such a wonderful service we are providing. Within a week's time, we can provide that protection and we can get you the patent number. So that is the kind of service we are providing. Unfortunately, many people are not aware. I urge all the audience through this platform, make use of the NRDC service and protect your patents, trademarks, copyrights using NRDC services at free of cost. No cost is involved for you. Provides new revenues for streams through licensing, franchising, or a sale. If you have a patent, if you don't want to practice it because of any other reason, you can license your patent to others. IP is must for exporting, particularly if you want to export your product or service to the developed economies. Patent is a must. If you see in US, 99% of the products what they use there, they are all patented products. So patented means what? It is authenticity, the validity of the technology. It is not a spurious product. There is a lot of science, innovation, technology has gone into that, and a lot of regulatory approvals have come into it. That is why the IP based products are very costly also. That is what we call innovative products, particularly in the drugs, pharmaceuticals. The products are innovators products, they call it. They are expensive compared to the generics. Generics means once the patent expires, after life is over 20 years, anyone can produce that. That is what we call as generics. They are all cheaper, but the innovators products or innovators molecules, they are nothing but patent protected, patent enforced products. They are much superior in terms of their performance. That is why they are costly, because they are also genuine products, and it increases negotiating power. If you wanted to invite partners in your business, if you have a patented technology owned by you, can also negotiate better terms with your partners. So these are all the many advantages. And also I just made an attempt to correlate between IPRs and GDP of the country. As I mentioned in my earlier slide, countries who have got large number of patent portfolios, their economy size is also correlated with that. Look at China. They file 15 lakh patents every year. The economy is about 14.14 trillions. Similarly, if you look at USA, they file around 6.5 lakh patents every year. Their economy is 21.4 or 22 trillion dollars. Similarly, if you look at Japan, they file patent about 3 lakh patents. Their economy is about 5 trillion. Germany, if you look at their economy, 3.86 trillion. They file around 67,000 patents. And India file around 50,000 patents. Our economy is around 2.94 trillion US dollars. So a long way to go for India. The China and India, if you look at, we are similar in many parameters, but still their patent filing is huge. Not that India, we are not doing research. We are doing a lot of research, better research than China. But what is we are missing is that the awareness, the enforcement of IP. So there is a need for us to file more patents, and we need to identify what are the outcomes of research can be patented, and we need to provide such kind of a support and awareness to the researchers so that our researchers will be able to file more patents and more commercialization should take place. Then it will lead to GDP growth. So that is what is important, is that IP and GDP are directly or indirectly they are correlated. So we need to all the policy makers, all the researchers, administrators, they should give highest priority, create such kind of infrastructure in our institutions. Our universities still don't have IP cells, many of the universities. So there is a need for creating that kind of an infrastructure, that kind of an awareness, and people should commit whatever research they are doing and whatever PhDs they are producing. Some part of their research results should turn it as a patent applications. Then definitely our patent filings will go up and the culture will be created. And whenever we do something, that kind of a mindset we should do our research. Whatever results we are getting, immediately we should be able to think in terms of patent. How do I protect this knowledge? How do I file a patent? What requires to draft a patent? So we should produce that kind of a data and results so that all our experimental outcomes can be converted as a patents. That is a culture we need to build in our society, in our academic environment, our research laboratories, and we should also give more weightage to the people, the scientists, the researchers who file patents, who commercialize IP. That is not there in our country. We give more weightage still to people who publish a peer-reviewed paper having a high impact factor. But technology is also very, very important. So we also need to give equal importance to the people who created IP, who commercialized IP. Unless we bring such kind of incentive mechanisms, we will not be able to achieve such kind of the best practices or the best goals or the best benchmarks being achieved by other countries. So if you look at again patents per $100 billion of GDP, South Korea, in particular in Asian countries, South Korea is the leader. They file 8,600 patents for $100 of GDP. China 5,800, Japan 5,200, India only 174 patents for $100 billion of our GDP. This needs to be the policy makers, the scientific departments. I think we all need to deliberate upon it to come out a policy, to bring out a policy, how we can improve our innovation index, how we can improve our patent filings. I think it is a time now to deliberate upon, to raise to the best global benchmarks. Also, if you look at how companies have leveraged the patents, Apple, they hold 19,000 patents and their annual turnover is 265 billion. And you see the market capitalization. This is, as I mentioned to you, the market capitalization has come because of the intellectual property portfolio they hold. Amazon, they also hold 8,000 patents. Microsoft, 40,000 patents. Alphabet, which is the parent company of Google, they hold 20,000 patents. The recent entry, Facebook, they hold 4,000 patents. All these companies, their market cap, if you see, for example, Apple, Microsoft, all these things, almost they are half of our Indian economy, the companies turnover, the market cap itself. So such is the power of IP, which is driving the economies of the globe. And I would like to sum up and spend 2 minutes on how NRDC is supporting IP protection and commercialization in country. NRDC, as I mentioned to you, works with all government labs in CSIR, DRDO, ICAR, ICMR, Earth Sciences, Ocean Development, universities, IITs, and we have access to all these innovative technologies. We have also created a data bank wherein we have more than 3,000 innovative technologies we have listed in agriculture sector, food sector, biotechnology, healthcare, almost all areas of industrial activity we have technologies. So anyone decided to become an entrepreneur, I think they should reach out to NRDC. NRDC is the one-stop shop for you in helping you solving all your entrepreneurial problems. We can give technology, we can give incubation space, we can give investment, we can connect you to mentors, we can connect you to various other investors. So what more you want? Everything is available under one roof. Only thing is we don't talk each other, we don't reach each other. So that is the biggest lacuna in our ecosystem. We need to have this kind of a webinars. How Corona also has really helped all of us to reach out, to discuss, using webinars as a main platform. Without Corona, probably would not have come to know each other. So I again compliment Turnip for organizing such kind of a wonderful event to share our experiences, share our knowledge, educating ourselves, attending such conferences. During the last 3 months, I would have given more than 60 lectures in various webinars on IP, technology, commercialization, innovation, SME, startups, things like that. So it's wonderful opportunity for all of us. We also partnered with the Ministry of Defense. We established an intellectual property facilitation center in DGQA, where we are helping all the defense production units in filing their patents, commercializing their patents. We are also working with Indian Oil Corporation. They have also created a startup fund, 60 crores. That fund is being managed by NRDC. Along with IOCL, we identify the brilliant ideas. We provide funding, 1 to 3 crores grant we are giving under this IOCL startup fund. And we have invested about 60 crores during the last 2 years in 24 startups. So they are being incubated across the country in different ideas, in different sectors. We also part of DIPP or DPIIT. Whatever proposals are submitted to DIPP or DPIIT and the Startup India Mission, we only evaluate all those proposals for giving income tax benefit. Government of India has put a condition: if you want to get an income tax benefit, there should be an innovation in your business. So whether there is an innovation in the business or not, that responsibility was given to NRDC to assess and tell to the government which startup has got the innovation. They have also given a definition of innovation. Innovation means the product or the service which the startup is trying to bring it to the market should be first of its kind in India. So that is the definition Government of India has defined. So we are, along with other, of course, various other parameters, that is a major one. We are evaluating and telling to government, these are the startup companies which qualifies as per this definition. So far we have evaluated around more than 4,000 proposals. We have recommended around some 350 startups who qualifies that criteria, and they will be getting this tax benefit and other benefits. We have also opened 15 university innovation facilitation centers across the country. We have opened in major universities our NRDC University Innovation Facilitation Centers, and we have also opened 2 IPFCs supported by MSME. MSME has also got a scheme to support opening up of innovation facilitation centers. We have opened one in Visakhapatnam, one was earlier in Bangalore. That project period is over. Now one is operated at Visakhapatnam very successfully. Organizing IPR awareness programs, IPR training programs across the country. Every year we organize 15-20 programs at various places at our cost. Only whoever invites us, we also sometimes identifies where such kind of need is there. We also established one UN WIPO Technology Innovation Support Center at NRDC IPFC Visakhapatnam. This was also again a major achievement of NRDC. We got one WIPO TIS center. There are only 3 or 4 centers in the country. We got one out of that 4 from UN WIPO, which is again CPM is coordinating that. We partnered with CPM. NRDC has already transferred more than 5,000 technologies, 5,000 innovations in different sectors in India and abroad. We are licensed technologies and services in more than 24 countries, and 95% of our technologies are in MSME and startups. NRDC files patents free of cost to startups, as I mentioned. So far, during the last 10 years, we filed 2,000 patents in India and abroad. We are managing 3 incubation centers and IOC of Startup Fund. We are also providing grant and equity funding for commercialization of IP. See, these are all the wonderful services, Unfortunately, many people are not aware, so you can make use of this opportunity, get connected to NRDC. See, nothing will happen overnight. You need to constantly study, understand the processes, understand the know-how, understand the government regulations, the guidelines. So many people get frustrated. And also you need to understand for which purpose you need to knock which window. See, the innovation value chain is so long, idea to market. You need a research, basic research, then you need to proof of concept, then you need to prototype, you need to validation, you need to clinical trials or market trials, and then commercialization. See, across the value chain, there are different stages of innovation. For each stage of innovation, funds are available. So, for example, you need a fund for research, and if you approach an agency which is providing fund for commercialization, they will say, your application is not meeting our requirement, we cannot fund you. So, that is what before approaching the funding agency, you should understand the scheme guidelines, whether that scheme is right for you or not. That understanding is very, very important. If you don't approach the right agency at the right stage, you will get frustrated and you will say, government is saying like this, but they are not giving funds and all those things. But that is a mistake in your part. You need to understand for which phase of development you are at and what are all the agencies funding that phase of the development. That is very, very important. If you don't understand, if you need a fund for a prototype development, and if you approach an agency like DST where they provide funding for basic research, obviously they will say that after 3 months or 2 months after evaluating, they will find you are not meeting the requirement. They will say regret it. Then you will get frustrated. Government says so much fund is available, but I didn't get a fund. The problem is within you. You need to understand which window of the government you need to knock for getting funds for the phase at which you are. So that is a very, very important thing. You need to learn that. You need to attend some workshops, meetings, read, go to the websites of our concerned ministry. Then you will be able to understand. Come to NRDC. NRDC also will guide you which agency you should go, which agency you should knock to get funds required for that phase of development of your innovation. So this is how NRDC model of licensing technology. We interact with all the laboratories, universities, identify the technologies, we sign an MOU and evaluate the technologies, the portfolio, and identify the gaps, whether the technology requires IP protection, prototyping, field testing, market research, basic engineering, regulatory dossiers, publicity, angel funding or seed funding. So depending upon the need, we bring all those components and mature that raise the technology readiness level, and we scout for entrepreneurs. Okay, and we identify a right entrepreneurs and we negotiate the terms and conditions with them, and once we agree the terms and conditions, we sign a tripartite licensing agreement, the agreement between the university or the research laboratory which developed the technology and the party or the entrepreneur, the startup company or the big company which wanted to buy this technology, and NRDC in between. So we sign a tripartite agreement. Once the agreement is signed, then we arrange a demonstration of the technology to the company representatives in the laboratory or the university where this technology was developed. Okay, the entrepreneur will be trained on the production process, the quality control, the energy balance, the effluent balance, all the testing, quality control, all aspects related to transfer of the technology will be trained in the laboratory. Once he is satisfied, he understood, we generally give three batches of demonstration so that you can evaluate the consistency, reproducibility, repeatability, the purities, what you have committed, whether you got it or not. So once you satisfy, then we sign it, take a certificate from him saying that he is satisfied with the technology demonstration, he understood the know-how and know-how aspects of the technology, and he is satisfied with it. That is the preliminary first stage of technology transfer is completed. Then the second stage of technology transfer comes when the entrepreneur takes this know-how package, prepares a basic engineering design package or a DPR, borrows money, establishes a commercial plant. Then again, NRDC and the laboratory or the university goes to the commercial plant, again re-establish all the process parameters, standardize the processes, and hand over the commercial plant to the entrepreneur. Many times the entrepreneur himself is capable, he will do it, but wherever some support is required, he will always bank upon the laboratory and NRDC. We provide all the required support and see to that he is confident and gets all the knowledge in operationalizing the commercial plant. So once that is done, then we say that if you are able to produce the product or the service, what has been agreed in our technology transfer agreement, the product specifications and the utilities, the raw material consumptions, all those things we demonstrate in the commercial plant. Once he satisfies, then we say that the technology transfer is successful. But that doesn't mean the technology is successfully commercialized. Only the technology transfer is complete. But the technology commercialization, a successful technology commercialization comes later down the line. So when we say that technology is successfully commercialized, when he is able to produce, scale up, sell the product in the market, capture substantial market share, makes profit, paid back his loans, whatever he is borrowed from banks and borrowers, then only we say that yes, this is successfully commercialized. So any technology will have these two phases, technology transfer and technology commercialization. But generally we use interchangeably both. Successful technology transfer means successful commercialization, and successful commercialization means successful technology transfer. But anyway, one leads to the other. The successful commercialization depends on the successful technology transfer. So, but generally we often interchangeably we use them. Okay, these are some of the major success stories of IP commercialized by NRDC. The indelible link, when we transfer a technology, this indelible link is particularly when we go for election, they put a ink on our finger saying that you have already voted, you cannot vote again till the next election comes. So that ink technology was licensed by NRDC, which was developed by CSI or NPL, National Physical Laboratory. We license this technology to Mysore Paints in Mysore. This is a small scale industry, is doing very well, is also not only meeting the entire country's ink requirement, they are also exporting to 28 countries, and majority of the employees in this company are women employees. Such a highly technical ink is being produced by women in that company, majority. Then Amul baby milk powder, this is also another major technology licensed by NRDC. CFTRA Mysore has developed this technology, CSIR, CFTRA Mysore. This Amul baby milk powder, it is substitute for mother's milk. This is one of the major success story of NRDC. Recently I met the CMD of this company. and I asked him how this product is doing, what is the turnover it is contributing to your balance sheet. I am surprised to know the figure. He said around 3,000 crores of their turnover comes from this Amul spray milk powder alone. That is one of the very successful technology licensed by NRDC. Similarly, the 10 and 20 HP tractors, whatever tractors are there in the fields now, the Swaraj tractors. This technology again was licensed by NRDC, which was developed by CSAR, CMERA Durgapur. All the small tractors which are there in the market, now this company which was producing the Swaraj tractors, Punjab tractors, now was acquired by Mahindra and Mahindra, and all the technologies, all the tractors, we have given this technology to two companies, Sonalika International Tractors, the Sonalika brand name, and the Swaraj tractors, both are based on NRDC technology. Artificial heart valve is again a major technology. The blood bag, again, whatever bags are there in the market to transport blood from hospital to hospital, patient to patient, the technology is again NRDC technology. 60% of the market share of these blood bags are from NRDC licenses. So like that, there are thousands of technologies NRDC has licensed. There are many products still in the market. Recent blockbuster technology IME9, which is a Ministry of Ayush, CCRAS has developed this. We license this technology to 7-8 companies. One company, Kudos, is doing extremely well marketing this diabetic herbal formulation. Similarly, another ointment, anti-arthritis herbal ointment, again CSAR NIST has developed this. We also license this technology about 7 companies. That's extremely doing well. Then remote operated vehicle technology, again NIOT, Chennai has developed it. This is also a very advanced technology. This remote operated vehicle goes up to 6,000 meters depth into the oceans and take photographs there and sends it to the shore. It's got enormous applications in naval and other mining operations. We license this technology to L&T and Bharat Electronics Limited. So many technologies of DRDO, CSAR, ICMR, ICAR. Another important technology, hydrogel, also one of the beautiful technology which can be used by the farmers, particularly in rain-fed irrigation. This hydrogel has got the ability to absorb 600% of its weight water and releases water to the plant when the soil temperature reaches 60 degrees centigrade. Beautiful technology licensed to Reliance Industries and Carborundum Universal. So like that, NRDC is a storehouse of technologies. Anyone wanted to become an entrepreneur, without any hesitation, please reach to NRDC, have patience, interact with my colleagues over here, and it is a gold mine. NRDC is sitting in a gold mine of technologies, and it's only up to you how deep you can mine into it, get gold and diamonds from NRDC. NRDC also responded to COVID-19 as a responsible organization. There are many technologies developed by many public funded organizations in the country across the COVID value chain, what we call them as a treating, testing and treatment. There are more than 200 technologies developed by all our public funded research organizations within a period of 2 to 3 months time. Such a wonderful outcome from all these public funded research organizations addressing COVID have come out. We compiled all these technologies and brought out this compendium and published it. Our secretary, Dr. Shankar Mandeji, has released this compendium, and we have received around 60 to 70 inquiries from various entrepreneurs. Some of them we have converted into as a technology transfer or commercialization. Many of them are at various stages of their implementation. We have also launched funding, equity funding as well as grant funding for scaling up of these COVID technologies. We have received around some 65 proposals from across the country for scaling up of these COVID technologies. We have supported 16 such kind of technologies in ventilators, then various masks, then treatment of effluents from the COVID hospitals. Like that, very, very innovative applications have come. We have funded around 16 proposals who are going to develop, who are going to scale up these COVID combating technologies. So NRDC, we also licensed about 6. This PPE technology is also very, very important technology which was developed by the Indian Navy, and we licensed this technology to 6 MSMEs. They're already started producing. The product has already been launched. Around the production capacity for all these 6 MSMEs put together about 12 million pieces per year. And the beauty of this technology is that it is a breathable, cost effective, and meets all the ISO standards approved by ICMR. And it's a breathable. That's most of these PPEs available in the market. They are laminated and they are not breathable. The doctors or the frontline people who are wearing this, they suffocate, and many people they fainted also. But this is a beauty of this technology is that it is a breathable and very cost effective. We license it to 6 SMEs. They are already started producing it and selling it. So for achieving Atmanirbhar Bharat, I would like to conclude saying that there is a need for more R&D investment. See, as I mentioned to you, we spend only around 0.8 or 0.9% of our GDP in R&D. But whereas countries like China, US, South Korea and all, they substantially invest. About 2.5 to 4% they invest of their GDP on R&D in a focused sectors. That is why they are able to achieve such kind of a development, and they are able to contribute to their economy. So they have really achieved that kind of a Atmanirbhar. And we also need to giving, as I mentioned to you, we should give more weightage for IP, people who are protecting IP and who are commercializing IP, particularly the scientists and faculty members in their career growth. Then there is also need to increase the IP and innovation commercialization rate. As I mentioned to you, the commercialization rate, if you see, our research outcomes to patent filing is also very less. There are so much research is happening, hardly we file 50,000 patents. But out of 50,000 patents, what we file or what we are granted, hardly around 4 to 5% of the IP only we are able to commercialize it compared to other developed economies. So what needs to be done is, in my opinion, is that there is a need for bringing a legislative acts like what the USA has got, the US Technology Transfer and Commercialization Act, So this, once there is an act and it body is identified to implement this act, it can bring a lot of streamlining of our activity, motivate the researchers, the developers, reporting it. Once you report, monitor, measure, then it gives some kind of a standards within the system and accountability. So that is what is important if you wanted to really achieve Atmanirbhar Bharat. The first and foremost thing, all the citizens have to give their best to the society. Not only we also have both roles, responsibilities and obligations. We need to do our duty first with utmost attention, with utmost dedication. If you want to achieve Atmanirbhar Bharat, every human being, every individual has to give their best to the society. That is the first and foremost condition. As an individual, that is what we can do. From the government side, they should bring a good policy which provides opportunity for all the stakeholders to give their best. So that is what is important. So in my opinion, the knowledge creation, the innovation creation is represented by Goddess Saraswati. The knowledge what we create, that makes the society, that makes the people, that makes the nations, the world rich, prosper. And so by that, whatever knowledge we create, that needs to be converted into products or services which creates wealth, employment, and of course whatever wealth we create, that we need to plow it back to create new knowledge, new technologies, new innovations. There should be an equilibrium at a highest level, highest values, highest coefficients, so that the equilibrium between the knowledge creation and converting that knowledge into wealth and putting back that wealth into knowledge, so that the society will be all the time having great innovations, so that the people's standard of living will be enhanced, the societies will prosper, and the earth becomes a happy place to live and enjoy and promote the well-being of every human being on this earth. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. Really, it's a wonderful initiative taken by the Turnip. I once again thank Rahul and his team for conceiving this program and organizing this program. I was told more than 2,000 participants have registered for this program. I'm really very happy to share my perspectives and my organization's objectives and the services what we are providing. It is a golden opportunity for all the prospective entrepreneurs in this country. Government is giving best of its services to promote entrepreneurship, innovation in this country. So unless the youth come forward, make use of all the schemes, all the benefits created by government, we cannot really contribute for the development. So instead of depending or looking for jobs, embrace to the entrepreneurship, create wealth, create employment, and contribute for building Atmanirbhar Bharat. Thank you, one and all. If you have any questions, I will be very happy to answer, Rahul. तो फोन करो. ठीक है ना वॉइस?